Hundessa's posthumous album, Mal Malasa, is a versatile album that is full of euphonious tracks for music lovers. From a numbers and promotions standpoint, the album had truly impressive weeks on the charts, topping many Hollywood artists' works that were released around the same time. Essa Jerta and Kuullee Koo, tracks from the album, have become part of the musical canon for his fans and Oromo people in general. However, the third track in the album, Kuullee Koo, is a ubiquitous song that seems to stay relevant endlessly. Besides the musical arrangement, structure, and stunning instrumentals used, the song is novel in its storytelling format, purpose, and meaning of the lyrics. The track composition is electrifying in nature, and the lyrics condenses stories from hundreds of years ago with a super-adjacent message of love, making it fascinating not only for music lovers, but also for historiophiles like myself. In the song, Hachalu makes references to 19th century stories of the Oromo people in the Wollo region specifically. The Wollo region, located to the eastern part of the Amhara regional state, today is one of the culturally diverse places in Ethiopia, with its capital city at Dessie. Yet, it is one of the places that is historically claimed by different ethnic groups such as the Amharas and the Oromos. The references Hachalu makes in the song, in return, trigger the history of the Wollo Oromos and the political culture of Ethiopia from hundreds of years ago. The song is generally interesting, but it would be an even more commendable one within the understanding of the Wollo region and its history, especially during the early phases of the formation of the current Ethiopian state. As such, I seek to explore the meaning behind the lyrics of Kuullee Koo, and the history of the Wollo region prior to the formation of the present-day Ethiopia. A sense of belonging. Music has long been used as one of the greatest mechanisms to express powerful stories about a society that struggles to preserve its identity, history, and culture in an increasingly hostile political environment. Most poets and musicians use lyrics, instruments, and melodies to get their message and grievances across. One of the early records dates back before the Common Era during the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem, known as the Babylonian captivity in 586 BCE. Prior to Babylonian captivity, the Kingdom of Israel was living peacefully until the Assyrians conquered the northern part of the kingdom in 722 BCE, causing dispersion among the various tribes of Israel. However, the home of the tribe Judah, the southern part of the kingdom, had retained its sovereignty until 586 BCE. The first few verses of Psalm chapter 137 in the Bible are full of sorrowful moments, as it recalls the devastated lives of the Israelites in captivity. In verse 1, the psalmist states, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept, when we remembered Zion." This historical account demonstrates how the people of Israel longed for their native homeland, and their desperate cry shows that the land was an integrated part of their identity as a nation. The Eastern Wollo region's historical significance to the Oromo society and identity is as integral and deep-rooted as Jerusalem was to the Israelites. In his song, Kuullee Koo, Hachalu also seems to imply that the Eastern Wollo region is part of the Oromo society that is deeply rooted within their identity. As such, it is onerous to relinquish, as the Israelites remembered the lost part of their identity at the time. Hachalu also remembers Wollo as an integral part of the Oromo people and attempts to bring attention to this region, especially since the region is completely dissociated from the large Oromo society, culturally and in political boundary. The Oromos have occupied and lived around the same area at first. However, they started to disperse to different areas. This happened over years. Thus, it is important to understand prior events that led to this. The social and political landscape of the Horn of Africa has taken different shapes throughout the history. Many historians have written that the Oromo people used to live together in the same area, sharing a common socio-political system of governance called the Gadar system. Hassan and Hayward, 1990. Although the history of the Oromo origin is inconclusive to some people in Ethiopia, the presence of Oromo in central and even the southern tip of the highlands of Ethiopia is apparent as early as the Zagwe dynasty. Hassan, 2015. Until the late 19th century, Ethiopia, formerly known as Abyrinia, was limited to the northern parts that included Christian and Semitic-speaking peoples in a territory comprising present-day Eritrea, Tigray, Gondar, Gojam, and parts of Shewa and Wollo, Melaku, 2019. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Adal Sultanate was another strong Islam kingdom to the east of Abyssinia that had been at a constant war for many years since the 14th century. The hostility between the two kingdoms started because of territorial expansionism, however over time, it continued as a religious conflict until the late 16th century. The hostility between Abyssinia and Adal broke out into an all-out war in 1529 CE between Imam Ahmad ibn Ibrahim al-Ghazi, known as Ahmed Gran, of Adal and Emperor Libna Dingle of Abyssinia. As the war hostility increased in the region, among many other reasons due to population pressure, the Oromo people were influenced to spread into different directions. Many claim this was a survival strategy for Oromos, which in return stemmed their division into different moieties and sub-moieties. The Oromos mainly quested north and westward as Adal to the east had the upper hand in the aforementioned war and was not as vulnerable to external forces. According to numerous historical records, the earliest known moieties of the Oromo are the Barana and the Barentu, Barantuma. From the sub-moieties formed, the Wollo and Yeju settled in parts of the present-day Amhara region, while others like Rea Azebo continued their migration further into the Lasta and Rea areas in Tigray, Poluha and Feleke, 2016. Over the years, the Wollo, Rea, and Azebo people adopted Islam due to the geographical proximity between their host land and the land of Adal, parts of the present-day Afar region mainly. In addition, Yeju and Wollo became predominantly Amharic-speaking regions, Poluha and Feleke, 2016. In the above context, it is important to note that many of Ethiopia's historiography and archives deal with the central and western Wollo region mostly, and there have not been adequate documents that assure the presence of inhabitants in the eastern parts of the Wollo region prior to Oromo settlement. Wollo, the name Wollo, Wilu, in Oromo, derived from Wilu, meaning together or togetherness, is of Oromo origin. Thus, it is safe to conclude that the region was named by the Oromos after they settled. Today, the Wollo province has formed a new collective identity of sorts as a result of the intermingling and intermarriage between the Afar, Amhara, Agor, Oromo, and Tigray people over the years. Though they have assimilated to such an extent that much of their original cultural and social cohesiveness was lost, the Oromo society has preserved some of their Oromo heritage, such as names, the language, culture, etc. For example, much of the places located in the East Wollo provinces are still called by Oromo names, including the name of the 7 houses of the Wollo Oromo group, such as Wara Karalu, Wara Hibanu, Wara Babu, Wara Ilu, etc. Kuullee Koo Kuullee was originally meant to refer to a girl who wears eyeliner. However, over time, the term's usage has evolved into describing or referring to any beautiful girl that a guy is attracted to. Furthermore, it evolved into a name that parents use to call their female childs. Its use is more widespread in the Wollo province than any other regions according to oral histories. Kuullee Koo, simply put, means my Kuullee, an equivalent of my love. Also, it has become the norm for external observers to use Kuullee as a general nickname of Oromo girls from the Wollo region. The core message of the track, Kuullee Koo, is about Oromo's historical connection to Wollo region, contrary to the popular belief that it is solely a love song. While Hachalu talks about love on the surface, if you listen closely, the song has a more profound meaning than just falling in love with a Wollo girl. For starters, the song summarizes within itself the beauty of a Wollo girl with whom he, Hachalu, fell in love, and insight into the history of the Wollo Oromos, including historical cities, rulers, and events dating back hundreds of years. This is while wavering between love and fascinating stories on the looped beat with brittle, smoky, euphonious, and modulated vocals that are electrifying for the heart and soul, shaping an affinity between the listener and her Kuullee. It is here, in the pool of words with anthemic disco beats, that one finds the story of the Wollo people and Oromo's historical connection to the eastern Wollo region, which is often neglected in the archives and historiography of the Ethiopian state. Hachalu starts the song by confessing to the girl that he thinks of her constantly, and as a result, he is having a hard time sleeping. He then goes on asking her for a solution, showing his strong attachment to her emotionally. Yada fi yadu kitin halkan Caesar da bewanama ki yadu ti ma hiraba